how do you think that the right fights back against this? Because again, it's not just from government. It's in academia. It's in the corporations. I mean, I think that the right thought for decades that the corporate world was going to be free market oriented, and it turns out that now the corporate world is indoctrinating its own employees in the same sort of critical race theory that the universities were indoctrinating their students with in the late 1980s, early 1990s.
Yeah, because people respond to demonization and pressure. They head for the tall grass. CEOs of corporations don't want to lose customers. They're not brave people. It's an extortion racket. When I came into the right 40 years ago, the first thing I looked around and said was, where's the ground army? My ex-comrades on the left have hundreds, if not thousands, of organizations whose business is threatening politicians and corporations, intimidating them. Jackson and Sharpton made careers out of racial extortion. You go to a beer company and say, give us $10 million or we're going to call you racist and boycott you. And that was told to me by a witness of that happening, Bob Beckel. Not that he will say it publicly. Where are the conservative organizations, grassroots? Well, Donald Trump has given the conservative movement and the country a great gift because he has created the first mass conservative movement in our history. It's clearly numbered in the millions, but if you just think of the hundreds of thousands of people who turned out for his campaign rallies, that's the basic army that can save our country. Conservatives need to get in the face of these teachers. Look what the teacher unions have done. They've damaged the lives of millions of K-12 kids because they don't want to teach. They just want to collect their paychecks. You've got to go in the face of the teachers, of the principals, of the school boards. Why isn't there a sit-in at Twitter headquarters or Facebook, making their lives miserable and exposing to them? The press will flock to it, and you can tell the whole country what censors they are and what fascists they are, basically, and what hypocrites, since we know they let Iranian mullahs preach the death of America on their sites while banning the president of the United States. I mean, what greater act of censorship is there than to deplatform the president of the United States, which they've done? So what conservatives have to do is they have to start being more aggressive, calling things by their right names. Use words like fascist when it's fascistic. It's fascist. It's racist. To demonize your opponents with no evidence whatsoever. To call what happened on January 6th an armed insurrection is the way fascists deploy politics. Not, Americans, not small d Democrats. They don't do that. They're polite. That's what the collegiality is about, used to be in the Congress, bipartisanship. How can you be bipartisan with a party that you're calling enemies of the state? You can't. But no, and it's true that the media is a bunch of liars. What happened to the media is that in the old days, reporters actually never went to college. They went out on the streets and they reported what they saw. But these journalism schools have been corrupt for 30 years. I had lunch with the chairman of the journalism department, who is a decent left of center person. And I asked him, I said, Michael, do you have any conservatives on your journalism faculty? He said, I can't think of one. I said, do you think that's a good idea for training journalists or for education in the first place? Not to have purged all conservatives? He said, no, I don't. I said, what can you do about it? He said, nothing, because the professors hire themselves. And that's been going on for 30 years. I can tell you the Columbia School of Journalism is the same way. NYU, it's the same way. All these elite institutions are one-party states. You know this better than anyone, Ben, what one-party states the universities are. If a conservative appears on campus, he gets boycotted by professors, and the left comes into his event and turns it into a circus, and the administrators think it's funny.
Thank you for tuning into the Daily Wire, one of the fastest growing conservative media outlets in the country. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any of our content.